Bling! So, welcome back after a long time here in my channel. LightWave Guru in the house. This scene is from Ben Mitchell, and he sent me that scene yesterday late night or in the morning here in Germany. And I would now talk a little bit about lighting in Octane. And Octane is a very nice renderer. And Ben, you see here your scene without the lights inside. Yes, the lights inside is all off. You see now only the lights outside. I blend then in the video over to the original renders. And the reason is here's a little bit light from outside. And this is for Octane the best case for lighting a scene if you only have a light from outside, from a sun. Yes, that's the quickest way to lighting a scene inside the room in Octane. And the reason is you become very fast high-end, good noise-free render, and it would all be looking nice. Yes, so that's the simplest lighting case in Octane. Okay, or I would tell it in another way. The very simplest light situation for Octane is you lighting an outside scene. Yeah, the outside. That's very easy in Octane. Also very simple. This case is the next level. That's simple. Okay. The third case, that's more tricky, is that case that you have also inside lights bouncing in the scene. Yes. And the worst case is, for example, my scene I show yesterday. If you have a mirror hall and you have only inside light situation and you have no light from outside. Yes, that's a 4-level for a PBR, for a physics-based renderer. And the reason is that if you have to bounce photons or rays inside a room, a renderer has much more to do as if you render an outside scene. Yes, and that means that you need for a scene you render inside situation like that, you need much more rays, much more samples to realize a noise-free render. Yeah, it's normal if you have more than one light sources with different light colors. And that's the next tip, Ben. In the real world, if you work with a PBR, forget all your lighting tricks from the native LightWave renderer. With the PBR, you can create only real light situations if you are study the reality. Okay, and that means, for example, all lights in the real world have his own color, and this color you can translate with his own temperature. Yeah, temperature. And that means, for example, a normal glass bulb inside from that lamp with a transmitting texture inside have around about 3000 Kelvin. Yeah, and the neon lamp have, for example, around about 4500, 5000 Kelvin. That means it have another temperature, and that means that the real light and the reality, if it have more brightness, is in the most cases change also the color. Yeah, and if you would simulate that lights from the reality, you have to check the real colors from that lights in the reality. You would find on Wikipedia or other platforms or websites the real kelvins or temperatures from the light sources. Yeah, from different light sources. I can give also a link in the description from the video that you can there study it. The second is, if you work with Octane, it is very important that you understand the GI clamping here, that parameter. Yeah, the GI clamping means not more than if you go with the GI clamp higher, all surfaces in your scene you have a glossy as material will bounce the light in the scene. Yes, and if a light bounce in a scene, you can give with that parameter, with the GI clamp, with that clamping factor, the way the ray goes, you know. If the GI clamping, for example, exactly 1, you have a linear bouncing. That means if that light source here emit a light, let us tell him photon, okay? If we send the photon to another texture or surface with a glossy, yeah, with a specular or specular surface, the photon bounce come from here and bounce exactly that way, you know. Input is output. Input angel is output angel. That's physics. Yes, it's simple physics. But if you go higher with the GI clamp, the light send his photon also in that way, and here the photon can go in that way or that way or that way, or it means it go a little bit more diffuse out of that bouncing surface. Yes, and if you have in your complete scene many glossy surfaces or specular surfaces, yeah, if you go higher with the GI clamp, it would the light, the photon, is spread more and more in the scene, yeah, in a diffuse way, spreading. So that means GI clamp 1 means that the photon go exactly in a linear way in a surface and go out of a surface and bounce his way a little bit. And if the GI clamp, for example, here is 200 or so, it spread the incoming photons here in a totally different way out from that surface, you know. And that means that you can create many different light views or light looks in that scene only with that parameter GI clamp. Yeah. The path term power means not more than what do the photon if he goes out of a surface. Yes, and in that case here goes 30% from the light brightness, that's the path term power, then out of the surface and bouncing his way. And how much time bounce it? It bounces so often what you here give as parameter, you know. Does that mean in that scene here, the photon bounces 36 times for all glossy surfaces, yeah, and that bring a natural lighting in the scene. Yes, if you take for example only 8 here as depth, we bounce only 8 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Stop. So, and have you now light sources in your scene? They are too bright. Yeah, you have too much light power. It's too strong light. This strong light go out of a light source and bouncing to a surface, and also, for example, a photon from the sun and a photon from that and from that, and in summa summarum you have then created a hot pixel. Yeah, that means the render you see here, in that case, there is a hot pixel on 100%. Yeah, I can show it here. It's 100%. Yeah. That means that scene is now, after my setup, totally clean up with my light setup and my surface setup to kill all hot pixels. And I kill the hot pixels not with that function here. I kill the hot pixels if I imagine what is the real parameters of all the light sources inside the scene. Yeah. So you can also in that way denoise the scene, but that's another theme, you know. So we go back to the kernel parameters. The GI clamp is absolutely important. Yes, it's. I sent you the scene back. I do it on my server, and you can study the scene. And the first what you will do is that you understand what GI clamp is. What I'm talking about is to take the GI clamp, for example, and do it to 0.1. Yeah, also under 1. Then you see all the scene would go much darker and darker, and the reason is that the photons no more spread in that diffuse way and go linear and more linear, you know. So, and if you go higher with the GI clamp, all your complete scene would go brighter, and yeah, the light would go up, and the reason is that all the photons spreading more in a diffuse way. Yes. I make a little diagram. Wait a sec. So I'm painting a time. So inside light, outside light. This is the light source. Light source. So we do it in that way. If that your light source and that your surface bouncing the light, and if the GI clamp is 1, you have it directly in that way. Okay. If the light, if the GI clamping is, for example, here 10 or 20, the incoming light here would go that way. And spreading more, you know. That's the secret of the GI clamping. And if this photon on that surface spreading more, it's clear that all around them go up with his light. You know. I hope it was a little bit better explained. So the next thing is, if you work with Octane, that you work better not with the classic Octane lights. You can add it in the LightWave layouter. It's better you work with the blackbody emission or the texture emission node. And if you open that, you can see that you have here the temperature. And the temperature in the blackbody emission is also the color of a light source. Temperature is color, color is temperature. Yeah? It's a spectrum, a classic spectrum. Mr. Hubble is root from that, or some other physics artist from the last. Yeah. Anyway, okay. That means in that case, if you have here this parameter is 3300, that means 3300 Kelvin, okay, and that's create also your color. So the power is, yeah, with what power goes the light out of your emission source, and the efficiency is in what range your light will light up the scene, yeah, in what area, you know. That mean, I make a little graphic one more time, wait a second. You have, for example, a round room, and in the middle is the light source, and the emission efficiency, the efficiency is 100%. The light will go this way, okay, and its efficiency 50%, it goes here and end, and if it is 10% here, so yeah, that's as simple as the range, and there's the light would work in the scene. Okay. So the sampling rate is clear. That's the time how much in that light source give out a photon or a ray. Yeah. If you make the sampling rate higher, you become better renders, but it needs longer. And that's very difficult. You have to experiment with that parameter. It's from scene to scene another sampling rate the best. Yeah. In that case we have here sampling rate 1 is okay, but I take, for example, often the sampling rate from 4 or more to have more samples, more light samples. Yes, so from time to time it makes sense to activate the normalize button to normalize your light for the surface brightness from your scenes. That is a safety option, that you become not hot pixel, but in must and not in must. In some cases, this normalizing brings not the right answer if you have hot pixels. So go off with the normalize and take a look what's then done if you render the scene. Yes, surface brightness, it's a limiter. Yeah, it's limiting the light he bounces on the surface. Yeah, and it's from surface to surface. Another parameter. It's yeah, my English is so bad. Yeah, it's a limit. See it as limiter. Surface brightness, that is limiting, and cast illumination is clear. If you make it off, the illumination would not cast. So, and what's also important, the camera imager. The best way to have a nice look on that scene is that you take the exposure to 1, the gamma to 1, and play a little bit with the different responses you'll see here with the camera responses. My favorite at time is DSC 315_2, but you can also use the default. Yes, the default is aqua blah. It's only different censorships from cameras, and you bring more crispness or more lightness or different color or a different contrast in the scene. Yes. So the highlight compression is also clear. It's if you have a very bright sun in the scene or very bright lights, you can compensate a little bit that highlights with the highlight compression factor. Vignetting is, it's I think clear for you. Saturation also clear. And another important tip is the hot pixel visibility. Yeah, is here 100%, and that mean in that scene you would see every hot pixel, and that's important that you never touch that parameter. And the reason is, if you see in a scene a hot pixel, for you must clear that your light setup is wrong, or your surface setup is wrong, or your kernel settings are wrong. Or all in, yes, all these functions would not work with another. Yes, it cooperate not in the right way. And the reason is often that the textures, or better the surfaces you build in Octane, have parameters. He bring hot pixels in a scene. For example, is it if you take a too heavy bump parameter, yeah. If your bump is too hard, or the parameter is too big. Another thing is that you have not enough samples in the scene. That mean for that inside scenes, if you have to create the lighting for an inside room, you must accept that you need many samples. Yeah, to become a noise-free and a good rendering. Yeah, that means if you see in the beginning, if you begin to render a scene, much noise, that means nothing. And noise is not a hot pixel problem. You know, hot pixel is a separate problem that have nothing to do with the noise level you see in a scene. And if you will go down with your render times, I can only say use NeatVideo version 4 to denoise your renders. Yeah, and you have two ways to create noise-free renders. One is you give that scene enough samples, and the second is you fix it in NeatVideo version 4 with a denoising parameter. And there you can denoise your Octane renders. It's from time to time better you use the denoise from NeatVideo, that's spare much render time. Yes, but from time to time it's also cool if you have the right setup to render it out with brute force. Yeah, for stills is it okay if you brute force it out, and the reason is if Octane have enough time to render a scene and brute force it out, you become very nice high quality renders. Yes, so that's what I can say about the Octane renderer, and you can create with that for real photoreal stuff in high quality, but it's yeah, not so simple to understand it if you work before only with the LightWave native renderer. Yeah, so forgot all what you learn about the LightWave native renderer. For example, you sent me all the lights here you create for every light, the Octane light, and set it on that position. That's all not important in Octane. In Octane you can use the surface from that neon lamp himself to emitting light, you know. So I kill all your lights, we bring only much noises and makes the render process longer, and also the refresh and whatever. So only as tip, yes. The only light in that scene is in that time here, for that case, the sun outside. This here, that's a neon lamp, and that bulb in that round lamp. Yes. So I stuff or package the scene and I send it to you then, and then you can check out what I do with your scene. I change the important surfaces from your scene to bring it in the right parameter, that we have no hot pixels, and also I change some kernel parameters and the light parameters to bring it to level that all that parameters cooperate, yeah, for a nice scene. So I think more cannot say with my ugly English. I hope you have a nice time, Ben. Buy Octane if you are very clever and put yourself on the next level. It's a very nice tool to render architecture stuff, yeah, or all other stuff anyway. Yeah. Okay. Bye bye and greetings to all.